Welcome to Your Brand Amplified, the podcast where we interview marketers, publicists, and brands to learn their stories, what makes them tick, and tips and tricks that make a difference. Welcome back to Your Brand Amplified. I'm here with John Papaloni of Papaloni Capital, also a podcaster and a serial entrepreneur like myself. John, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I love the fact that your first entrepreneurship journey was DJing, because my first entrepreneurship journey was promoting DJs and club nights in Kansas City, Missouri.
That's hilarious.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, my initial intent was actually radio. And it's one of those things that I was never really a scholar. Like the easy route and the typical route everybody does is, go to school to get that good education. And I just did not want to go through the school process to get on radio. So I thought, I'll do it a different way. I'll build up my popularity through DJing, through the nightclubs. Then just by popular demand, they'll want me there.
Yeah, I love that. I love that strategy. And I always say that I learned so much about entrepreneurship and business and marketing through that journey and just the organic process of being in the trenches and learning.
Yeah, exactly. Right. I believe in do more than analyze kind of thing. It's like, yeah, it's fine to do your research. It's fine to do, whatever you need to do to know. But if you're researching for 10 years and you never act, you'll never get anything done.
Well, I can definitely tell that you're a doer from your resume and your bio, which I was just perusing on LinkedIn, I was telling you. So you live in Canada. You started out, you wanted a radio DJ. So you started DJing. You did get on the radio.
Correct.
But then you weren't feeling fulfilled. You wanted to do something more. Is that what I'm sensing from what I'm seeing?
Yeah, it's one of those things that when you pretty much did what you wanted to do, like the next progression was either a full-time gig on radio, not just at the clubs.
Yeah.
Or you get into music production. Now, the full-time gigs was, let's be honest, radio is pretty unstable. You're in and out of gigs all the time. And it was also one of those things, it's a lot harder to get something that's stable and full like that. So it was just easier to look at what other avenues are there. And then there was, producing. And I'm not really a producer, right? It was not something that interests me. Like, even though ironically part of DJing is counting beats, a lot of producing is the whole beat counting too. But it was one of those things that I had an ear for it. I didn't actually count. So when you're doing producing, the counting was more important. And when you turn something that's fun and make it mathematical, then it becomes boring.
Right.
So I kind of said I need to do something different. And that's kind of why I ventured away from that.
Nice. So what was your next phase of your career? And what did that look like? And did you end up going to school and finishing a degree? If you were like, I don't want to do that traditional path, I want to do this other thing. Did you end up doing that? And then what was your next on-road into entrepreneurship?
Well, here's irony for you. I did not graduate high school.
Okay.
But I did finish college.
Wow.
And the high school part was stupid on my part. I was literally short 2 credits.
Oh my gosh.
And I just did not want to do them, did not like them, and I got distracted. And that's when I was busy with DJing anyways. So I just didn't care and moved on. And was it the right decision or not? I don't know. But it is what it is.
University.
So anyways, they made me take a test to get in. And then when I passed the test with flying colors, so clearly I still knew the knowledge without going through the course. And yeah, so then I got into it and I learned graphics, or digital design as they called it.
Nice.
And yeah, the reason I went into that was a funny story. I was working part-time, while I was DJing, because I quit school and I was DJing, I was working part-time at a fitness club. And if you're American, you'll know it as Bally Total Fitness. We used to have it in Canada, but then Good Life bought out the Canadian side. Anyways, regardless of that, at the time I was working there part-time. And what ended up happening is that I was working part-time and I bought a brand new computer because I wanted to be able to, just do more stuff. And at the time I was sharing a computer with my sister and stuff. I said, it's time to get my own. So I went out and got my own. I was so proud. And I brought it to the fitness club because I didn't want to leave it in my car because it was in an area where there was a lot of break-ins in the car and I didn't want my computer in the car. So I brought it in. A friend of mine who I met there looked at it and saw the computer and says, oh, pretty cool. What'd you get? I told him what I got, whatever. He goes, oh, you have a program called Freehand. I didn't know what it was, but somehow I had it. I knew to download it or get it or whatever way I got it. I had it. I didn't know how, but so I said, yeah. He goes, pull it up. Oh, okay. I loaded it up. We're there. Instead of working, we're playing on my computer. So we're looking at it and he's showing me how to do all these design stuff, how he creates logos, how he creates different things and all that. And I got fascinated by that. So that was kind of like, you know what? I want to build a design business. I like what he does. I want to learn this. That was what inspired me to enroll into school because I figured that was not something I can learn on my own. And I needed that that course to learn that section. So I literally went in there for that. Yeah.
I mean, it's such a good skill to have. I mean, yes, there's Canva. Yes, there are programs that make it really easy these days, but having that knowledge base of how to design from the ground up in other programs is still so vitally important.
We also got to remember at the time Canva didn't exist, but aside from that, Canva can make the click and drop and all that stuff easy. But to get it proper, you still need the principles, right? Why is a font a certain size? Why is it scaled a certain way? If you do it just by eye and all that on the computer, you can see something that looks perfectly fine. But when it blows up onto a billboard, and I'm sure you've seen signs like this, and you can see the amateurs from the pros based on this, you see something like, we'll use brand, right? Like on your screen, brand, B-R-A-N-D sounds great. But when you do it on a billboard and it blows up, all of a sudden you see the B, and you see this major gap in between it, and it says Rand. Because the space between the B and the R is way too big. On a computer, it's not noticeable. It looks perfectly fine. On a billboard, you see the spaces. Now, learning the principles from the course, that's where that comes in. So yes, I could do the job easier through Canva, but if I don't know the principles, I still don't know what I'm looking for to fix.
All about the fundamentals. Yeah,
exactly.
I love that. So then you started up your print and marketing business. And at that time, were you still also working at Bally's and DJing? Were you doing all of these things at the same?
This is where it gets unique, right? So, I finished school. Right. At that point in time, I started trying to do graphic. Ironically, Bally Fitness was one of my first customers. Now, they thought I was just a business card guy because they just did business cards. And then after I showed them, no, I do more than that. Anyways, I fixed it. So then I ended up getting more business out of them. And I got too successful, too young. It became too easy.
Oh.
And since it was my first venture, I thought it was completely easy and anybody can do it. In fact, actually, that's what led to a bankruptcy.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, there was tension there, and I thought they were easy to replace. And then I basically, not rudely, this was all politely, but basically I said, buzz off. They were ready to tell me to buzz off, and I was ready to tell them to buzz off, right? I mean, everything was politely, everything was done professionally and cordially, but, behind the scenes, the message was buzz off. So, and again, I still think I'm on good terms there, and there was nothing bad, but my ego was so big at that point because things were so easy. I thought, I'm going to take a vacation. I'm not going to work for 6 months. Then I'll come back to work and do whatever I want, and I'll get it like that.
Right.
I got a sense of reality. I spent as if I had that income.
Oh, yeah.
Next thing you know, now I look at it and I see my account and I'm in negatives. I'm going, I better get back to work. Then I got the real rude awakening of how it is. By the time I really came to my senses, I was negative 122. And not only dollars, I mean 1,000.
Oh my God. I was like waiting for you to clarify because I'm like 122 doesn't sound horrible.
Yeah.
22,000.
Yeah. Now 122,000 as a 20-year-old.
Oh, wow.
Right. You know what I mean? One thing I'm amazed by is the fact that a 20-year-old was able to get that much credit.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? Like it might say something about the financial system there. But so that ended up leading to a bankruptcy, and I wasn't intending on it, and I thought I could get out of it, but it became so much pressure at home that I just said, you know what? I'm tired of these phones ringing and all that. And I just said the hell with it.
Let's pause right there because I think bankruptcy is something, and thank you so much for sharing that. I've also gone through a bankruptcy. It was after I got divorced and, found myself in a very different financial situation, got a job. And then I had my own company, was trying to support all these people and forgetting to feed into my own accounts and had to do a reset. And I think it's not something we're proud of necessarily, but it's not something to be ashamed of because it's something you have to learn from. And it's something a lot of people experience, whether it's because you had to turn in your business, maybe you had clients that didn't pay, or because, when you're 20, you're just starting out and you haven't gotten a lot of, honestly, I'm in my 40s and I still haven't gotten a lot of financial education. We don't grow up learning that.
Right.
I think they're trying to change that now, but it's not something we grew up knowing about, like what the actual value of this resource was.
Absolutely. And I'm being 20 years old, making $100,000 a month.
Yeah.
It's very easy to get a big ego, to say the least.
Right.
So I got a lot of learning lessons there. I got a learning lesson on self-awareness from this too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm going to give you a scenario. I'll tell you how this whole went down, and you're going to see what I mean by the big lesson. This is how I learned awareness and self-awareness. The day I went bankrupt, I went to see the lawyers. I was in with the lawyers, and that sense of relief, I fought to not do this. I didn't want to, right? But then when I walked out that door and he says, yep, it's 9 months of dealing with credit counseling and dealing with me, whatever, and all that. And then you're, so as far as now, it goes, as far as today, nobody will bother you. He goes, but you're only in bankruptcy for 9 months. Okay. So now I'm pretty much free. So I thought, right now I was. So I walk into a donut shop that I became friends with the people who owned the donut shop. And I walked in and I got my morning coffee. I was so happy. I mean, not happy that I was bankrupt. I was happy to be free. It's a fresh start and let's do things over. I walked in and I'm jumping up and down. Guys, I'm free. I'm free. I'm free. I'm all excited. And I'm looking around. The whole donut shop is mortified. What the hell's going on? Why is everybody mortified? Well, you want me to be screwed? You want me to be like, I don't understand what's going on. They're all looking at me. And I didn't realize something was wrong. I said, what's happening here? He goes, haven't you heard? I go, no. A plane went through the World Trade Center. I was in the lawyers at 8 o'clock and the plane went in at 9:01. And when I got out of the lawyers, it already happened. I had no idea because I had the news off. I didn't turn on anything. And the lawyer was literally a 4-minute drive from that donut shop. I had no idea what happened. I walked in and I'm jumping around in joy going, I'm free, I'm free, I'm free. Boy, talk about learning how to be more aware of your surroundings and what's going on. That was a big lesson in itself.
That's a huge lesson. And it's something that, again, like the fact that you learned it at such an early age, I think it's so hard for people to become not only self-aware, but also comfortable with who they are and their surroundings and feel grounded in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I ended up getting a job at a nightclub, ironically, with all the DJing and everything. So I got a job in a nightclub there and I was working, a friend of mine owned it. So he knew I was in a situation that I need a job, because I had to pay the lawyers, I had to pay all these things per month. You still have a commitment every month. Going bankrupt doesn't mean you have nothing, right? It just still a certain requirement. It's very minor and it's very easy. Any job will get you to do, through that. But I need an income to be able to do it. So I was fortunate and blessed enough to have met him throughout my thing. And then he gave me a job. So I was happy about that. But then I thought, you know what? I don't rest easy just doing regular jobs. I thought, let me give myself another try. Let me do something again. Now that's when I opened up my big business. Like this is where I learned from my mistakes. But I didn't know it was my big business at the time.
Okay.
So I opened it up and I thought, I'll get right back into print marketing and all that. And what ended up happening was that I said, okay, what is the competition? What are they doing? What is everybody else doing? And I came across these guys in magazines and they're advertising stuff. And I'm looking at what they're doing and they're trying to do what's called a gang run. And this gang run is where you take a normal print sheet, like that's just say 60 inches wide by 30 inches tall. Not the exact measurement, but the point is the same. And just see if it's 60 business cards on there, where you print the 60 business cards, trim them down. You got 60 business cards. The cost of that print job was $1,400. And where I'm going with this is that large businesses want to print, like we're going to use printing, and they want to print big booklets. They want to print these $200,000 orders. They want to print these million booklets, and they want to have these catalogs. And that's what everybody wants.
Yeah.
And then what happens is, well, you can't tell Sears or Walmart that I'll print your $1 million orders, but for your $50 business cards, leave me the hell alone. Right. That's not really the way it works. So it costs a certain amount to turn on the press, whether you're printing a business card or whether you're printing the big book. There's a certain minimum cost. And nobody wanted to do it. So I found a need in there based on seeing people's ads and what they were doing. And I said, I can find a gap here. Nobody wants this job thing. I found a way to take small jobs that nobody wants, combine them, and make this big sheet, which becomes the big job, and then trim it down. And that's a way I can offer wholesaling. So I got printers, graphic designers, advertising agencies, and, even regular shops to use me to take advantage of that. And that was the target, at least. So I am going to get into these magazines. I thought it was smart. I'm going to get in the magazines and they don't know I went bankrupt and I'm not exactly going to tell them.
Right.
So they got 30-day terms. Sure, let's do it. If these guys can do it, I can do it. I advertised in every magazine I could find. And what ended up happening is I advertised, nobody's calling.
Interesting.
2 months in, they haven't called me for a check yet. And I'm close to 60 grand in debt again. That I haven't even gotten out of bankruptcy and I'm in bankruptcy. Or I'm heading towards that at least. I thought, now what do I do? I thought this was the worst thing I've ever done. Ticked off, ready to pack it in. The phone starts ringing. And I'm like, can you do this order? Yes, I can. Can you do that order? Yes, I can. Then all of a sudden, all the people you talk to that says, I'll call you sometime. Now they're calling you back. Now you're meeting up with more people. Next thing you know, I got the sheet full. There goes one print job. Oh, that was good. Second sheet comes in. There goes another print job. Third sheet comes in. There's another print job. Now I'm getting the calls and saying, yeah, we're looking, when are you going to send a check? I'm going to send the one for the 30 days Monday. You'll get it. Okay. And I'm thinking, I got enough orders that'll cover at least the first half of what I owe. I'm still going to be behind here, but they don't know that I'm behind it, just whatever. So I'm thinking, at least I bought some time to figure this out. And now I sent them those checks and whatever. Now I got a problem is now the phone keeps ringing to the point that I can't even fund this.
Wow.
Like I had more orders than I was able to cover, even with my job. So if I was able to pay for one sheet, I had two. Then when I got the money to pay for two, I had four. I was always behind. And it got to the point I'm playing the check game. I'm writing the checks to myself and I'm just keep back and forth until I get the cash to deposit. So one of them will actually go through.
Right.
And that was the way to not balance, which is completely not good. Anyway, so then I thought, okay, I can handle this and the cash flow. I thought within 3 weeks, I'll be caught up with these magazines and I'll have some sort of flow. I can handle the 3-4 sheets a week. Yeah, but now I'm at 6, then 12, then 20. And it was growing like that. And I'm like, I can't do this. I just can't. I don't know what to do. So I got this wild idea. I'll get people to invest. And I offered 20%. So 20% per year, that's a lot of interest, but I can't go to the bank because I'm bankrupt. So I had people invest. I was barely keeping up with orders as I was getting more and more investors. And it just blew up and went crazy. And then I just kept adapting, adding more services. I had so many ideas and just kept going up. And then, it got up to about 8 figures a year, put it that way.
Wow.
Yeah. And then at that point in time, I had to sell that business in 2007. I was fed up. It got to the point that if you had a problem, look, you had people that are out there that their social aspect is complaining. It's not that there's anything wrong, but that's just how they speak. Exactly. You know what I mean? They'll say, the colors in your background is great, but it's a little too pink. It's not purple enough. And it's like, and I got to the point that I couldn't tell who was really upset and who was social complaining. So, and was so busy. And again, I got the lesson of delegation here because I was lousy at it. And I would get so stressed out. It got to the point that the social complainers would be complaining, but I wouldn't catch on. And I'd be trying to figure out how I can help them. The ones with real complaints, it got so bad that I was telling them literally, not only figuratively, literally to F off. And it was terrible, right? Now, I remember one day I was just so convinced this guy was trying to scam. And I just blew up on him, like total explosion. And one of my close friends who was working for me at the time tapped me on the shoulder and says, we need to talk, right? Because he saw where I was going. He goes, there's something really wrong with his product. I go, what? I go, what possibly could be wrong? He goes, look at the Canadian flag. I looked at the Canadian flag and I looked at it and go, oh my God, the Canadian flag is red and white. Since when is this purple and orange? And I thought the pressmen reversed the plates and changed the colors. It was an accident, but nobody noticed it. Oh no. And then I realized, and here I am getting ready to tell the guy where to go and how to get there because I think he's scamming. But that was that day I looked at that and I said, it's time.
Yeah, it's time.
It's time. Yeah. And I got into an argument with one of my suppliers as well. And I just said, you know what, if I had X amount of dollars, I'd be out of this business. We made a deal and he bought it.
Oh, okay.
And that was it. I knew that was my exit. And that's how I got out of the marketing and printing business. Because I even tried the website stuff and all that. And I just did not have the patience for it. I was just done.
Also, when you're building more, you have ideas. Like I remember I started my business as Annika PR, I was just doing PR. But then I realized so many of my clients didn't have anyone to do their website, their branding. They didn't have a logo. They needed all these other things. So then I started adding capacity and adding team. But it can get to be a lot when you expand, especially if you expand quickly. So you sold the business. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Bankrupt. Then what was your next foray into business?
Well, after I sold it, I went back to the roots of, remember my radio idea, right? I decided since it's too hard to get on FM dial and we're getting into what's called the internet and phone apps. I mean, back then the BlackBerry was big. I decided that I was going to create my own online radio station.
Nice. Wow.
And I had two formats for the business that I had. So I had one that was going to be almost like an online magazine and not vlog, but like a media site of what's going on in Toronto and Ontario, whatever. So if you want to get tickets to a place, you can go to my site, order them. You can see what events are coming up. You can see what's new and opening. And attached to that, that was called Click GTA. So Click Greater Toronto Area. Okay. That was kind of the concept of it. So yeah, you had all that event information and everything that's going on. And like I said, new products coming out, that's exciting. And you got to see all that. And then on top of that, attached to it, which is what I called Click Radio. And that's where I got to adventure into that radio journey that I wanted. And I did quite well with it. And to me, like even though the print and marketing business was an 8-figure-a-year business, but I'm not going to lie, it was about the money. You take away the money and I had zero interest.
Yeah.
I got into it to be a graphic designer and I did almost no graphics. You know what I mean? Like, so it was one of those things, you go where the business goes. So I ended up doing everything I didn't plan on doing and none of what I did plan on doing. but I went with it. And it was successful, and I learned business from that. And I learned the art of delegation, because that's probably what led me to be that stressed. Because I would hold on to everything like as if I'm the only one who can do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I had employees, but even them, I was like micromanaging.
Yeah.
So delegation is where I learned from that. So I don't micromanage as much anymore.
Nice. Good.
Right.
So many good lessons in this episode.
Thank you. Yeah, I learned from the school of hard knocks. I get kicked in the head and then I go, oh yeah, shouldn't do that again. I mean, people could tell me and they may be right, but you know what? Kick me, then tell me, then I'll learn. I'm joking, but kind of joking, not joking,
Right.
Right. So, but anyways, yeah. So then I got into the radio thing, and then that was starting to take off, and it was a joyous adventure. I loved it. But when my mom got sick, then my dad was not doing so well, I ended up staying home. So I kind of just closed that down. I tried keeping it all open without me being involved and just paying everybody for everything. But I was taking massive losses. And I said, you know what? It's not like I knew I was out for 6 months or a year and you just plan that. It was an indefinite time. So I could have been out 5 years. How much of a loss am I going to take before I say enough is enough?
Right.
So I just decided to close down, which is good. I'm actually happy about it looking backwards. At the time, I wasn't happy because hard to know what forward is. But backwards, you're going, okay, that was actually not a bad thing. Because had I held on to it and just say it would have been about 3.5 years, that's how long it was. 3.5 years, the whole market changed. Everything changed. I'd have to revamp it. So it was just as much work to revamp as it was to start over.
Yeah, definitely.
Right. So it was one of those things I'm glad I cut out when I did. But again, 3.5 years later, now what do I do? And that's when I said, okay, my parents were landlords. I've been around real estate. I go around looking at open houses all the time. Why don't I do something where I can actually get paid to do this instead of doing it for free?
Yeah.
So, I mean, since there's a passion in it, because I'm already doing it. And that's when I got my realtor's license.
Nice.
Yeah. So now I got my realtor's license. That was great. I mean, that was 8 years ago. And yeah, it's been an all right venture. Now progression comes along.
Right.
And I thought, you know what? I'm going to add services. I got my mortgage license. Plus, I wanted to understand the financing end of it. And plus, the truth is, I wanted to build up a fund. And at the time, here's the funny story. This is where Papaloni Capital comes in, because I'm going to be point blank saying it. I got my realtor's license. I hate the job, right? I love the industry. I hate the job.
What do you hate about it?
You know what? I think I might have just burnt myself out and overdid it. I used to love going into the houses, seeing them.
I would think that with your background, you love being around people. You're obviously able to engage with people. You're really good at sales. You have a marketing background. So it seems like that would be a perfect industry.
In theory, yes. And the industry is great. It's just the job itself. I'll give you an example. Pretend you're looking for a house and I'm helping you find a house and we're going to see it. And we'll go see 5, 6, 7 houses. You'll tell me, ooh, look at the granite counters, look at the walls. Oh, look at you know what? Look what I can do here. And in my head, I'm going, I don't give a shit. Right. So that and that's what I mean itself. I look at it as what's the investment opportunity.
Right.
But you're here looking for a home to live in.
Yeah.
And the stuff you care about, I don't.
Right.
I don't resonate.
Yeah, because it's completely different mindsets. Because I've had
Correct.
I used to do real estate investment with my ex-husband when we were married. And yeah, I definitely, there's that mindset of you're an investor. I also will say I did a lot of single family homes. So I did look at it like, is this the right neighborhood? Would I want to live? Like, is this a house that I could see myself living in, or like people I know? So I did do a little bit of both, but you also look at things like student housing or Section 8 or other kinds of housing is like, who's going to live here? Is this going to benefit? Like, what are the books going to look like?
Well, exactly. And this is where my real estate license is still relevant and the part of the job that I do like.
Yeah.
Like I realize I'm not the guy to help you find your family home. I mean, I'm physically capable of it. Right. And to be honest, in terms of the smarts, I'm probably one of the better ones in the industry. But in terms of interest, it's not there. Now, if you're talking to me about how can I build generational wealth through investing, now I'm your guy. Now I could tell you, and now I can show you 20 homes and I'll be more excited about it than you will.
Wow.
Because now I see the purpose. I'm not looking at the granite counters. I'm looking at how much rents can you get? How much interest rate can you get on your mortgage? And what is the cash flow? And on top of that, look at the maintenance schedule. How old is the roof? How long is that going to last? What about the furnace? What about the air conditioning? And I start puzzling that because you have to have a certain percentage aside for when things go wrong. I mean, and look how much information I'm getting into it, how fast I'm going. You can see the passion is there.
Exactly.
Right. So, and this is my forte. And right now, most of my business in real estate is, I would say 30 to 40% are investors themselves. The 60% is agent-to-agent referral, where I'm helping other agents who can't make it into the area I'm in because they're in a different area, and we have a referral fee. So my business is split. I don't have any direct end users because even my past clients have their home. So now they're calling for investment properties.
Interesting. And that's where Papaloni Capital comes in. So when did you start Papaloni Capital?
Literally, the ink has just dried.
Oh, wow. Okay. So
right. Yeah. It's yeah. Like it's one of those things. It's been on in the background because I'm an investor myself. Yeah. Sort of, kind of. In 2022, when the interest rates went up, I cashed out on everything. I literally own zero right now. Well, I lied. I'm living in a place that I own. Aside from where I'm living right now, I own zero, but I owned more back then. Yeah. Right. So I cashed out not because of the interest rates. That didn't scare me. I saw an opportunity. Mm-hmm. I don't like single family homes. I don't like condos. Again, I'm living in one right now, but like investment purposes, right? Like I sold the house I was living in, which technically was my dream home. That may surprise people. I thought, you know what? I'm such a hypocrite. I tell people, don't buy single family homes. Don't buy single doors. Invest and use your investment money to buy the home that you live in. And then what do? First thing I do is buy my dream home to live in. So like total hypocrite. So I looked at the market and I said, you know what? Here's an opportunity. I'm going to put my money where my mouth is. I sold my home and I was going to rent. And then at the same time I did all that, rents almost pretty much doubled. And I looked at that and I said, okay, I found this condo. And I looked at the bills and it's sort of I could pay $3,000 of rent or I could pay $2,000 on expenses and be in the same spot.
Right.
I kept some cash out because obviously I cashed out for a lot more in the home than I paid for a year. So I put the extra cash aside. So the point is I still have investment opportunities here. I was just waiting to decide where to invest. Anyway, so my idea to start the Papaloni Capital actually started when I decided to sell the house, and that was last September of 2022. That's when that was the last property I got rid of, which was the home I was living in, which was my dream home. Mm-hmm. And at that point in time, it didn't close till January. So that was a torture, but that's besides the point. I was kind of happy because I didn't want to move, but at the same time, it was torture waiting regardless. So now the Papaloni Capital idea came in. So I'm trying to figure out the rules, regulations, what do I need to do? So I talked to 5 different lawyers and I got 5 different answers.
Oh, wow.
So I said, let me get accountants involved. 5 different accountants, 5 different answers. Okay, accountants and lawyers. What about, now somebody mentioned mortgages. Well, if you get into a mortgage guy, you get your mortgage license, now you can open up a MIC, Mortgage Investment Corporation. Now I can get investment funds through that. I can distribute whatever. I can do private equity loan. Let me get my mortgage license. This is a great idea. This is a way around it all. That was not correct information. I mean, the MIC exists, but for what I wanted to do and the advice I got from the person was not the correct information. I'm happy that I got my mortgage license now because it gives me an all around. Yeah. So I'm happy about it. But my initial wasn't that I want my mortgage license. It was this. I thought this was the way to journey into Papaloni Capital.
Right.
Kind of wasn't. But anyway, so then now I'm getting frustrated and I don't know what the heck. And I'm like, who do I talk to? I can't figure this thing out. There's got to be a way.
Yeah.
And I had someone on my podcast and it was an accountant he's an accountant and he's got the law firm attached to his building. Like, so there's 2 in 1. I don't know what the relationship is with him or like in the law firm, whether he's a part owner or not a owner or there's a joint. I don't know. And it doesn't really matter. He knew his shit. We were on the podcast and we're talking. I'm asking him questions and he's basically answering Papaloni Capital questions without me asking that. You know what I mean? Like, you got to be kidding me.
That's what you have to do. Yeah.
Right. So, and this guy is the one I was going to originally go to for my stuff, and I avoided him because I thought, ooh, he's a little pricey, right? Which is another lesson. Sometimes there's a reason you're paying.
Exactly.
Right. So, anyways, after that podcast, I said, where are you? He goes, Peterborough. So, you know, Peterborough is a good 3 hours away from where I live. Okay. I said, let's make an appointment. I'm coming down. Because for what I want to talk to, I want everything in writing. I want to draw out the map, none of this Zoom stuff. I want to make sure I got this right. You know what I mean? And he seemed to be the only one who knew what he was talking about. And that, what are we in now today? Now we're in August now. Holy crap. So that was in April. So April is when Papaloni Capital was officially registered.
Fantastic. Well, a few lessons that I'm pulling out here are you have to learn how to delegate. You have to cut through the noise of the social complainers versus the customers who have real issues. Don't spend more than you have. Set aside money. Sometimes there's a balance between following your passion and following the money. And you just have to know what's right at the right time.
Yeah, well, that's where self-awareness comes in.
Yeah,
being self-aware, because you can even be in the same industry. Mm-hmm. Like saying I'm unhappy doesn't necessarily mean I have to quit my job. or I have to move companies or change industries. It could just mean that you have to change roles. You can be in a different role in the same place, and it could be night and day.
Yeah. What are some other things that you think people need to think about as they're going through their entrepreneurship journey? Maybe they're going from working in corporate and they want to start their own business, or they've just started their business but don't know what they don't know.
I got a saying. I lied. I stole the saying, but I believe it. You know how people say go big or
go home?
Yeah, why would anyone want to go home? Go big or go bigger.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, where my lesson here is that it takes just as much effort to build a $100,000 business as it does $1 million business. It takes just as much work to build that $10 million business as it does $1 million business. Now, I know, we'll use real estate just because I'm in that industry. I know you're not going to buy your first property and buy a 320 unit apartment building on your very first purchase. We know that's not true. And I know you got to do it in steps. But more than likely, whatever you think you're going to do per year, double it or triple it and aim for that. Because even if you get 50%, it's still more than where you were originally targeting. And you'll find yourself with that big goal, you'll overwhelm yourself a little bit. Not so much that you're going to panic, but enough that you'll push yourself to do that little extra. Instead of saying tomorrow, you'll do it now because you have that goal. And then you'll get it done.
Fantastic. This has been really fun. You're really engaging. And I really enjoyed hearing about your journey in entrepreneurship and all the different things and lessons you've learned. This is really, truly so valuable to my audience. So thank you, John.
Thank you. I'm glad. I feel honored to be here.
And on social media, you are John Papaloni.
Correct.
The best way to reach out to you on your website, is it papalonicapital.com?
Yeah, that'll take you where to find me.
And I know you shared a saying. Do you have any other quotes, mantras, words that you live by that you want to share with us?
You know what? Be yourself. Just be yourself and learn what you need to take out of your life, because it's just as important what you need to add to your life. We focus way too much on what we need to do to get something without realizing that we got to cut out things just as much. If you got someone who's bringing down your vibe, someone who's holding you back, someone who doesn't believe in you, it doesn't mean that you have to throw away all your friends, but you might need to limit your relationships with them. You might limit your exposure to them because you don't have time to be brought down and live in your misery. You need somebody that's going to pump you up and help you find the answers you need so you can get to the next level.
Fantastic. Awesome. Well, John, thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you to our listeners for coming back for another episode of Your Brand Amplified. And I'll be back again in a few days with another amazing entrepreneur expert. Want more? Check out amplifywithannika.com or follow me on socials at amplifywithannika.